to say, shame you've caught it on time. Well, it's still within the time, but you've missed out on great things. Dr. Maanda, good afternoon and welcome.
Good afternoon, Lukho, and thank you. Thank you so much for the introduction, and thank you for to all our listeners.
Oh man, it's great to have you. Your background today, if you're not on Facebook, by the way, you're gonna miss what we're talking about. But your background today is taking me back to COVID-19 times. Remember when everybody worked from home and
Yes,
everybody was trying to have a good background? And they'd put some books, and you'd
yes.
spot you spot in between those books. Those are sponsored magazines. Those aren't really books, but it was such a cool thing. But the nice thing also is, I know that you utilize those books behind you.
I don't know. I can't comment on that one. But
You
yes,
can't.
the background was started back then.
It's a background for you as well, Doctor Meda.
No. This is my bookshelf. This is my book.
Oh,
I can take
okay.
one book if it helps you.
No, I believe you. Don't worry, because
Oh,
because you're such a book geek. I
yeah.
will definitely take your word for it. But what I am picking up also is that you are guilty of not touching all of them.
As I said, I won't
It's a
comment on
yes.
whether I've read them or not. I just know they look good in the background. But yeah,
Oh,
I endeavored to. I do love reading, and
wow. You love
yeah,
reading and studying.
I love reading and I love studying. So I think I'll leave it at that.
How's
How's that?
how's your eyesight though?
My eyesight good, very
Oh
good,
wow.
very
Okay.
very very good.
So maybe they say we've got terrible eyesight because we're making excuses. We don't want to open the books. But it's okay. Dr. Manda, last time we had a conversation, we actually spoke more on self-reflection, and I must start with this. And I
Yeah.
know the listeners waiting today to hear whether I took my strength test. It just life just got too hectic. But a promise I've made to Dr. Manda is that tomorrow he's gonna have it so that we just chat in passing about it next time. Because I
Yes.
want to be accountable.
Yes. No, that would be great, and I look forward to getting your report and sharing it with you, and kind of sort of unpacking some of the ways in which you might leverage your own superpower to
Mm.
achieve all those wonderful dreams and make a positive impact in the lives of others.
Love to hear that. Now, 2 weeks ago, when we last had a chat, Dr. Manda, we continued our journey through values based leadership and, exploring how recognizing and developing our strengths enables us to lead with greater balance and purpose. Now, as we build on that conversation today, can you take us through some of the key takeaways from our last discussion?
Yeah, absolutely. Very briefly, so especially because you've noted that those that haven't joined us for the past two sessions, they've missed out quite a bit. So I'm gonna do my best to kind of just bring them on the journey with us. So we started off with this idea that you can lead and take an approach of a value-based leadership, and
Mhm.
that is it's a leadership for us. It's not just about hitting the targets and getting the bonus, but it's something a little bit more, and we
Mhm.
unpacked the framework by Professor Harry Kramer that sort of highlights four main things that enables you to be a value-based leader. The first one is this ability for you to self-reflect and know what your strength and know your values and what's driving your everyday decisions and actions. Two, sort of it was around balance. Three, true self-confidence, and number four, it's genuine humility. And we endeavor perhaps to sort of cover all of this, but for now, for the past 2 weeks, we spoke about just this one, and we will sort of complete it in this episode. Now, on the self reflection, we anchored our conversation on whether or not we, our listeners, including Luco, is able to say, here is my purpose statement. Many of
Mhm.
us talk about, I'm purpose led, we are purpose driven. And when you sort of pause and say, so what's your purpose really? That's when the
Mhm.
kind of conversation starts to sort of slow down. Organizations, Christians and non Christian organizations, most of them kind of go purpose led. It's become
Yep.
like like a like like a what do you call this thing? The that sticker, that label, that thing that almost everyone says. You know, you are a senior
Yeah.
leader. You're gonna use the word purpose led.
It almost seems as if to be a serious person, you use that term as a yardstick, like
Yeah,
purpose driven.
you know, and there's a few ones. You use the word strategic, then you know you're a senior. You use purpose led, and you use the big I word, the big innovation. So innovative, strategic, purpose led. Then you know you're talking to someone serious. But the challenge with these big words is that the more we sort of just make them become a status symbol, the more they lose
Mm,
their meaning and their effectiveness. And
true.
on the purpose conversation, we kind of sort of use Christian Willen's framework to write out your purpose statement. And we sort of
Mhm,
said, in these 4 or 5 weeks, we're hoping everyone can pull out a notebook and write out their purpose statement.
mhm,
So we did that, for that we unpacked values. We spoke about strengths, and we spoke about community, which are key parts of this paper statement. To a large extent, we sort of last week said, you know, leadership is not largely about copying what's working for someone else.
yeah.
It's just figuring out what are your unique strengths and gifts and talent. And
Mhm.
no, this is not about you sort of going to spend 5 years to go figure this out. If it was like, you know, centuries ago, we were going to say, yes, you can do an easy strength finder. You can do one of these personal assessments, and they will guide you very, very quickly to more or less where your strengths lie. And then to that effect, that's where you started your apology to say you will do your own strength finder.
Ye
Yes, essentially.
as you're speaking, I'm actually you're talking about how we have all these fancy terms and words, especially companies and organizations, and I'm thinking to myself, how many of these organizations or companies go back to test that?
Yeah.
We're
And
value based, we strategic, but to what degree and what does that look like for our company or for our organization?
yeah, and I'm in this line of work. We engage with a lot of companies and leaders, and
Hmm.
sometimes we do a strategy offsite with them, and then we kind of just reflect to them to say, "Hey, this is what you set out to do, and this is how what you committed to your people and the
Yo,
community at large." And most of them, they're not there. Hey, there's a bit of
yo.
misalignment. There is a statement that was beautifully crafted with the help of consultants and marketing agencies and all of those wonderful people. And
Hmm.
it's rare sometimes to find organization where those beautiful statements are lived out on a day to day. When you ask the people
Yeah.
who work in the organization, they go, "That's wonderful. That's on the wall." But now in a Tuesday meeting, you'll realize that's not how things are done over here.
Aish. Okay, so that's a call for us to be careful and not be liars. I know we're trying to do good, but we must account to every mission value statement we have put out anyway. So,
I'd say,
Dr. Manda, like you said, we've explored how recognizing our strengths and understanding the communities that we serve lays the foundation for impactful leadership.
yeah,
But purpose isn't just about knowing what we're called to do, it's about making a commitment to follow through. So,
yeah.
what does commitment really mean in the context of value based leadership, and why is it so important? And I think it speaks to this conversation we've just had as well. What does it
Absolutely.
really mean?
Absolutely, absolutely. So the last 2 weeks, we started to complete the paper statement by saying, because I value this, and we list our values and we unpack that. I will use my gifts, and we spoke about the strength to serve this community, and we unpack that through design thinking, anchored on the work done by Tim Brown. Now that sort of lays that foundation to say, okay, I am gifted. I've anchored on my values. Now it's time to serve this community. Now, the
Hmm.
bridge between intent and impact, the bridge between what we intend to do and the
Mm,
effect on the ground is what commitment is about. So that's commitment
sure.
really is the difference between what we say we want to do and what we actually get done on the ground. David Brooks described commitment as something that shapes our identity. Not only does it help us kind of
Sure.
do the work, it shapes our identity, it gives us depth, it gives us direction. It's not just a promise, really, it's that place,
Mm.
that alignment where we go back to choosing what we have already chosen. Right, that's when you
Mm.
know you're committed. You're going back to say, if we use a simple example of marriage, you are choosing this marriage, which is what you chose in 2004, or whenever you made the choice. So, but the misconception is
Mm-hmm.
that commitment takes away our freedom. But in reality, it gives us clarity. It helps our decision making. It helps people. It frees people from the endless options. Imagine you had to wake up every day and
True.
you go, "Do I go there? Do I go today? Do I feel like I work at a radio station or at a business
Mm.
or a telco?" So commitment frees you from unlimited options that
Mm.
are given there, and then it just focuses you. It helps you kind of just hone in into what you have already decided, and that which you know is what you would like to see happen in your life.
I like what you're saying. I used to have a huge back and forth with a friend of mine. You'd ask something from him. Maybe let's say you say, "Can you please do a certain thing on a certain day?" And
Yeah.
he'll say, "I'll see." And I hated that. And I'm using this word intentionally. I hated it because for me, it brings a refusal to commit brings a sense
Yes,
of uncertainty. And I think it's true even in relationships.
it
Once the
is.
other party is not really willing to commit, you don't really know where you stand. And I don't think that's what you want for your future, actually.
No, 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 no. And people that are still on the sidelines, who are waiting to say, "But I want to know what my calling is."
Hmm.
That work, that clarity doesn't come by you sitting and kind of just waiting. It gets
Mm.
refined. You get to know more about your calling. The more you are taking the steps towards the initial sense that you have got.
Mm.
Nobody kind of just sits there and you go, "What's my calling? What's my calling?" I will wait until forever, um, until then. I will just be, have my options open.
I like
Um,
that. It's not going to drop in your lap. You've got to commit to something in order to begin to see what your calling actually is. It's going to be
uh,
revealed through that which you're committed to.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's the conversation on commitment. And there's some things that you can potentially do to enhance this piece. So
Hmm.
many of our listeners, maybe they made some commitment to serve a community, to be there for the church that they lead, to empower, to grow, to develop the employees, to deliver
Hmm.
on some numbers. Right. The
Okay.
issue with commitment is there is a small but even powerful issue, which is you slowly drift away from it.
Okay.
Most people don't make a big leap away from what they committed, but it's a slow drifting. I think about, some people will say, "I'm committed to waking." Back in the days, there were people who will say, "I'll wake up at, I don't know, midnight and pray," or
Hmm.
"I'll wake up this time and pray or read the word or visit this orphanage, etc." The stopping of that doesn't happen like as a big sleep. Say, "Never, I'm no longer doing this." It's
Yeah.
just small drift. Before you know it, you have slowly drifted, and the person
Mm.
that you had committed to be and the community that you know you're meant to serve is left
Mm.
unserved.
Sure. And talking about commitment, Dr. Manda, it's such a powerful shift from just caring about something to fully committing to it, even when it's difficult. But
Yeah,
for many people, that's where the struggle begins.
yeah,
Commitment can feel restrictive, like it takes away freedom instead
yeah.
of giving us direction, like you said earlier on. So, how does making deep commitment shape our identity and lead us to a more meaningful life? Because you did touch on that issue of identity.
Yes, 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 yes. So there is what you say. You might say that I am a broadcaster, but
Mhm.
until you commit to showing up every Monday and doing this, you are not right there. But
You're
so
just
if
dreaming.
you are just dreaming, and it's good for you, and but you really are made, and your identity is shaped by your commitments. And as I said, it's easy to drift.
Mhm.
The first thing you want to consider is to start with the why, like to deeply, deeply, as Simon Sinek says, to deeply, deeply go. I want to do this, but that must be linked with the real reason why you want to do this.
Mhm.
Without a very strong why, there's a good chance that your commitment might not last. But now,
Mm.
good leaders not only just have start with the why, but they revisit their why every now and again.
Okay.
And you might just kind of do this at a personal level to say, every 2 months, I'll block some time out. Maybe I'll do an afternoon walk. I'll do this, but just to go back and revisit, why do I do what I do? When
Mhm.
that why starts to sort of faint, that's when the energy to do something gets you sort of don't have it anymore. And these things starts to feel a lot harder, etc. So number one is revisiting your why. Number two is you may want to surround yourself with what we sort of refer to as a community of courage.
All right.
um, and by that, I mean you find people that have similar commitment, and you kind of
Yeah.
announce to them that, hey, I'm committed to running comrades, right? For instance,
Oh, and I'm saying oh because I'm hearing that word announce to them. I'm getting the sense that there's something important about that aspect of announcing.
absolutely. When you make your commitments and they're just sealed away in your study in a drawer somewhere, it's easy for them to not be followed through. But
Mm.
if you kind of, hey, announce to a community of people and say, hey, I want to walk this journey with you. Can we walk this journey together? Actually, research found that you increase the chances of you following through by 65%. And more
Wow.
so, research also finds if you can have a specific commitment to someone, I think the word we use is accountability partner. The
Mm.
chances of you following through rises to as high as 95%. So two
Wow.
things to recap. One is your why needs to be understood and be clear. Number two
Mhm.
is you want to have a community that you're walking the journey with. And more importantly, if you can, it's not always the case with everyone, and not everyone has the same level of access. If you can find an accountability partner to walk the journey with, there's a very, very, very good chance that you will do well and be able to keep your success, your commitments.
Oh, wow. So true that when we make deep commitments, they guide us, even when things get tough. But commitment isn't just about doing one thing, it's something we have to renew and act on consistently. Many people
Absolutely.
start with strong commitments, but over time, distraction, challenge, or even complacency can cause them to drift. So, how can leaders stay anchored in their commitment, Dr. Manda, over the long haul?
To a large extent, is that structure. When
Hmm.
someone starts to fall back on their commitments, the question to ask is, what structure have you set in place to
Mm.
hold you, to keep you back there? Most people, I do outdoor stuff, cycling, running, etc. Most people that run and successfully do races like comrades, they belong to a running club. There
Yes.
are runs every morning at 5 a.m., and there is a certain structure that not all of them, that most of them follow all the way through to running the race. And that community of people and the structure that they've set up is the thing that holds them up. So if the challenges, distractions, and just weariness and fatigue is starting to kind of creep in, the
Hmm.
thing to look at is, what structure, reinforcing mechanism have you set out for your commitments? If those
Mm.
are weak, there's a good chance that we will falter from what we set out to say, this is what we want to do from
Hmm.
a place of passion and purpose. So, Commitment really requires a very strong why and a really good structure, mostly the surrounding of yourself with the people that have a similar kind of mission.
Wow. Dr. Manda, listen, we've explored how commitment is essential for leadership. But one of the biggest barriers to deep commitment, and you and I know this one, it's fear. It's fear, my
Yes.
friend. It is fear. So, how does fear undermine leadership, and what impact does it have on a leader's ability to fulfill their calling?
Sure, this is a really good question because fear has a way of just shrinking our leadership without leadership
Mm.
impact without us even realizing it. And it doesn't always show up as panic. You know, when you say
Mhm.
fear, you're like, no, 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 I'm fine. It often disguises it does. It disguises itself as caution, as some version of
Sure.
hesitation.
This is
It's
so true.
yeah, over planning and counting the cost to some extent. And before you know it, the person is going nowhere because at the underneath it all is fear. But it's never gonna announce
Yeah.
itself to say, I am afraid. Right? You know,
True.
we can have all the skills, we can be inspired, have vision, make commitment,
Sure.
but if we allow fear to take a driving seat, it holds us back hugely. In
Mm.
fact,
And
Gary
and I think
Hogan,
and I
yeah,
think we don't even pick up that we've moved from a place of just being cautious people to being overly cautious because
yeah,
we're not saying be irresponsible,
mhm,
just step into things. A level of caution is needed. But like
yeah.
you're saying, fear disguises itself as caution, whereas we are overdoing it actually.
Yes, 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 and over planning and reviewing
Mm.
that plan over and over again. And if you feel hesitation of some sort, there is a good
Mhm.
chance, not 100%, that maybe fear might be in the driver's seat. Gary Hogan, in his book Leading Without Fear, describes fear as a silent destroyer of dreams. Can you
Yo.
just, I want that to land. It's a silent destroyer of dreams. And in
Mm.
nature, dreams are beautiful and they're wonderful, and they imagine the world being this amazing place. But a silent destroyer of that is fear,
Sure.
because fear shifts us away from purpose and vision towards self-preservation.
Mhm, mhm.
Instead of asking what difference can I make, we start to think, what will happen if I fail? Will I look foolish? Without noticing over time, we end up leading from a place of trying to secure safety rather than pursuing impact.
Sure, you're making such an important statement. I always say it's very easy to try and think of what will happen if you fail. But there's a thought we don't entertain enough. What if we do succeed?
Absolutely.
We don't
And
entertain that part.
and at the dreaming stage, at the envisioning stage, we are
Mm.
imagining what could happen.
Mhm.
We can change the world for the Lord, and the young people will be impacted. And then we need to invest into this project, and then fear kicks in. What if I
Eh,
lose the money? What if I lose face? What if this thing doesn't work? What if all of this stuff, and before you know it, we will applaud you, right,
yeah.
for not being reckless.
Mhm, mhm.
But deep down, the calling is a lot bigger than the incremental, it's kind of a small step that we are taking.
Sure. All right. No, 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 no. I feel like I am being nudged by the Holy Spirit right here. But hey, girl, don't sit in that safe zone. It's not
Yeah.
really going to do much for you. That's such a powerful insight, I must say, Dr. Manda. Fear doesn't just stop leaders from moving forward, it actually convinces them that staying still is the safer option.
Yeah.
But what makes fear even more dangerous is that it often hides in plain sight, like you were saying. Many
Yeah.
leaders don't even realize that fear is actually influencing their decisions. So, how
Yeah.
can leaders recognize when fear is subtly shaping their leadership, and how do they move past that?
That's exactly the challenge. Fear isn't always obvious. It doesn't feel like fear. It often looks like wisdom, caution. It sometimes even looks like you're being strategic. Hey, can you believe?
That word
Um,
again, strategic.
yeah, of course. you know it shows up as wasting waiting for the perfect time, needing more information, wanting to be 100% before you
Mm,
take action. And real and as we said, while good leadership requires being thoughtful and not being reckless, there is often a fine line there between being
mm,
wise and being paralyzed by fear. So one way leaders can tell if fear is at work is by asking, am I making decisions from a place of faith or from a place of self protection?
mhm,
Am I making my decision, this decision I'm making today, is this from a place of faith or is this from a place of self protection?
mhm,
And largely, if it's towards protection, the symptoms and the effect is that we will start to retreat, we will start to play defense instead of moving forward, and we will be convinced that doing the small is actually being smart. So one of the most effective
mm.
ways to uncover this hidden fear is to do a fear inventory,
All right.
where you take some time. Some leaders do this on a daily basis, some do it on a sort of some weekly pattern, but where you kind of in stillness as well to sort of say, hey, what am I truly anxious about? What am I afraid could go wrong? If I weren't afraid, what bold moves could I do today?
Mhm,
And just sort of 4 or 5 minutes of just stillness and just kind of assess your heart and your motives to say, am I drifting here now? Have I gone to the extreme end of self protection, or am I still in faith? One slight anecdote. I studied Bible school, as when I was doing my undergrad at UCT. So I did
you and
Bible.
studying.
I know, I know, I know, I know. I did. I
Is
studied.
there a qualification you don't have?
I know, I know, I
It's
know.
it's
There's
a
no
good thing, guys. Don't get me wrong, but I just feel like Dr. Manda never rests. He's always in the book. Go ahead, Dr. Manda.
No, it was smaller than before I forget. So we're doing a Bible school, and it was done by every nation, and we'll do it at night. But we did a subject on faith, and the lecturer, I don't think I'll ever forget, and she emphasized this thing to say, faith is a state of my life. And that was sort of like a key takeaway.
Mm-hmm.
Faith is a state of my life. In essence, I'm always in the state of faith.
Of
Now,
faith.
when fear kicks in, you are no longer in that state of faith. And what we're
Mm.
trying to do with this conversation is fear a state of your life,
Mm-hmm.
or is faith a state of your life?
Okay.
Um, and this requires some reflection on our part. So some of the real most courageous leaders, as I said, they reflect daily. They make it a habit to sit in silence, to name their fear, and ask whether those fears should have the power to lead them.
Mm-hmm.
Do I want, when I look back in my life and reflect and I go, yeah, fear took charge of my life, and here
Ish.
is where I am today, or I have seen my fears, I confronted them, and the thing with fear is it doesn't disappear until you take the step, and you take the next step,
Yeah.
and and here's a bigger problem: the more successful, inverted commas, you get,
Mm-hmm.
the more self protection you almost seek,
Oh.
because you have
Oh.
accumulated something, right? There is a fear of losing all of that
Oh,
that
you
you've.
can't afford to lose all of that. So you live a life of just guarding what it is you know you've accumulated.
Yes, yes, yes. And the sad thing is, what you have accumulated is just a small, tiny bit of what God
Mm.
can ultimately do with you. So when people have nothing to lose, they go all in to a very large extent. But
Hmm.
as soon as you get a little bit of success, now I'm a manager in the procurement department. Now all of a sudden I can't risk it anymore for God.
And if you think about it, what got you there were reasonable risks,
Yes, yes, yes,
actually.
yes. Yes, 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 yes. So as soon as we get something, as soon as our church grows to 50 members, now we can't take risk anymore. Now the finances are going to protecting the 50 people and the
Mm.
mission that we have. Yet, God has a much bigger 50 million project He's got for you.
Mm.
Rather than overly. We're not saying be reckless. We're kind of saying, is faith a state of your life? And if it is, would you be taking the decision you're taking today? Would you
Mm.
be signing the contract you're signing today? Would you be refusing to take the action you're taking today? But if fear is a state of your life, there's an opportunity for us to reflect and kind of face our real fears.
Mm. Sure, that's powerful. Now, throughout this conversation, Dr. Manda, we've explored two powerful forces in leadership, which are commitment and fear. Quite opposites, if you ask me.
Yeah,
We've seen how commitment gives leadership clarity and direction, helping them stay true to their purpose. But at the same time, we've also acknowledged that fear is often the biggest barrier to
yeah,
following through. It doesn't
yeah,
always show up as panic.
yeah,
It disguise itself as hesitation, overthinking, or waiting for the perfect condition.
yeah.
So as we close this afternoon,
Yes,
is it still
yes.
afternoon? Yes, this afternoon. As we close, how can leaders remain committed to their purpose even when fear threatens to hold them back? Because it's going to be there, no matter
Ab-
how much faith they have.
abs-
I think you can agree with me at this.
Absolutely.
You're a successful human being, but no matter
Uh-uh.
how successful you are, you probably still find yourself at that point where you're like, "Whew, I've taken numerous risks, but I don't know if this one is worth it."
Yeah.
You
And
win over it, and next time you still have the same statement.
Yeah, and to a large extent, I almost want to sort of say, I think fear is even more stronger the successful you are, inverted commas,
Mm.
because you have a lot to lose,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Than if you have nothing, if you don't have a lot to lose. But now that's the what you stated is the real challenge because fear and commitment are always in tension
Mm.
as we lead. Commitment is calling us forward, doing what we know we want to do, but fear is tries to pull us back, right? So
Mm.
it's a pull and push. Gary Hogan speaks about how fear is the greatest force that stops leaders from acting on what they know to be right, and that the danger is that fear doesn't always feel like fear. It's got all the disguises as we spoke about, but the leaders who make a difference
Mm.
aren't the ones without fear. They are the ones who are anchored in their commitments
Whew.
despite the fear.
Please
You know,
repeat that line again. It hit. It hit. It landed. It really landed.
good, good. The leaders who make a difference aren't the ones without fear, but they
Hmm.
are the ones who stay anchored in their commitments
Hmm.
despite the fear.
Sure.
They regularly visit their why, reminding themselves why they started in the first place.
Hmm.
Um, and they lean into the community that they've kind of been part of. So, also because, one more point on this, the reason why you really need a community is because fear grows faster and
Hmm.
more in isolation.
Fear
So
grows faster and more in isolation.
yeah, the more you are isolated, that's the beautiful sort of breeding ground for fear, if it were, because then you are left to be doing the overthinking on your own. But
I'm
if you have
lo-
a community that says, yeah, this is what we do every Saturday morning, so let's go, and then you're
I'm
like,
laughing. I'm laughing because in isolation is where you feed yourself all the nonsense and all the poison. You try and validate yourself because
ah,
you're alone and there's nobody to say, ah, abo, aibo.
absolutely, absolutely. When there's someone there that says, "Hi, but this is what you committed to. Do you remember
Yeah.
you made the vows on that day? So
Mm.
let's go. Let's get back into the ring." So
Yeah.
so figuring your why is great, why you're doing what
Mm,
you want to do, and the impact
mm,
thereof. Having that community, surrounding yourself with the people that are in motion towards what you're trying to achieve. And in this
mm.
one, people often say, surround yourself with the right people. And that
Yep.
might feel a bit daunting to say, oh, who are the right people? But in this case, it's just to sort of say, who are the people moving in the direction I'm looking to go? Right? You
Mm,
want to start running. Oh, without reviewing the CVs of all the runners, you go, these people are all trying to run two oceans. I'm just going to show up, I'm going to run with them. And then when I feel tired, one of them will say, hey, look, I haven't seen you in the last two training sessions. Is everything okay? And then you start coming up with excuses, of course, not you. And then they
You're
into
gunning for me, of course.
yeah. So maybe as I wrap up this whole piece, we said you can write your purpose statement. You
Mm,
say, because I value, and you kind of show the three sort of four values that we spoke about in the first episode. I will use my gifts, and then we spoke about strength in our previous episodes, to make an impact in this community, which we spoke about. This idea of leading with empathy and truly, truly
mm.
understanding the needs of the people that you're meant to serve. It's very
Yep.
easy to be inward focused as an organization, and we forget that, hey, we're actually serving school children. And the idea there is to kind of go visit those people that
Mm,
you truly are meant to serve. And now we say in this last two pits, we insert commitments and fear in that statement, which then sort of say, I will make this commitment based actions. I will do one, two,
mm.
three, four, despite my fears of one, two, three, four. So the encouragement for today is for you to inventory your fears and kind of sort of reflect on the community and your strength and your values. Make
Mm,
tangible, actionable commitments to say, I will do the following. I will contribute X amount of money monthly towards this. I will
yep.
visit this institution. I'll do that. You almost want to have those actionable commitments. And as we said,
Mm.
if not having or not knowing your strength is a limitation, you can reach out to us, and we can kind of help you do an assessment, find your strengths, and guide you towards how much you use your god-given strength, talent, for you to be able to make that massive, massive impact.
Wow. Before I get those details on how a Radio Pulpit family can actually take the test as well, I
Yes.
think as we're speaking, Dr. Chiflaru, I'm reminded I've got twins, as you know, 21 months now. They're
Yes.
21 months. 3 months
Yes.
away from 2 years, and
Yes.
and their characters, it's just so beautiful to watch as they grow, and you'll see where I'm going with this. So I've got Kia Muhetui, who has no sense of risk. She has no regard of any risks. Yeah, if she wants to get off that bed, she'll get off, and that's it.
Yes. Yes.
If she falls, she's gonna cry, but tomorrow she'll do the same thing again. And
Yes.
I was
Yes.
laughing at her, and as you're speaking, I'm thinking to myself, I I really have been thinking also as she grows,
Yeah.
it's a good trait that she's
Yes.
quite a risk taker. She
Yes.
simply needs to be reminded to
Yes.
calculate sometimes and
Yes.
understand when it gets too risky. But
Yes.
but also to just encourage her to say, listen, you go for what you want, and that's really commendable. Then
Absolutely.
I've got Uamohetsi,
Yeah.
my baby.
Yes.
Oh, what a coward. Okay, not to use that word, but
Yes. Yes.
I watch her sometimes try to get off the couch.
Yeah.
She was the first to get off the couch successfully.
Right.
But today she cannot
Okay.
because her legs hang and her feet are so close. I mean, much closer than Kia's when she lands. But you know what she does?
Yeah.
Just before she touches the ground, she puts her legs back up on the couch and she's back up. Because she's not feeling the ground with her toes, somehow for her, I'm gonna fall. She goes back. And sometimes I always say to her, just as she's about to go back up, and I'm like, I push her down. You're there.
Yeah.
You've landed. You just can't feel the tiles. Just go down. And so
Mhm.
as you're speaking, I'm thinking, really, fear can limit us so much.
Yeah,
Even when you are at the verge of a breakthrough, it will
absolutely.
try to reason with you and say, hey, girl, no, no.
Absolutely.
What
Absolutely.
if you fall?
Mhm.
Whereas you're literally less than a centimeter away.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where sometimes that's where most people are at. Most people are one connection away from potentially their biggest breakthrough. And by connection
Mm.
is, oh, I met with Lukho and Lukho gave me a number but you know what? And I'm just using this as a simple one.
Mhm.
The fear of approaching that person and say, hi, Manda, I'm hoping to do one, two, three, four. Could you assist me? And then you might find it was the right time. Manda had the capacity, had the
Yep.
phone number.
Yep.
And I want to encourage our also listeners to say, you might maybe on just this one approaching someone, if we just
Mm.
take one challenge for today, which is, hey, who might you, if you're not afraid that maybe they might ignore you or they might, if you're not afraid, who do you need to reach out to today and ask
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Because we are usually that 1 centimeter away, eh?
Mm. You just
So
need to land.
we just need to land. And
Yep.
landing these days, it's a WhatsApp, sometimes a WhatsApp message away to say,
Yep.
hey,
Yep.
can I please ask for a funding for my project? It needs R1 million. And then you might
Mm.
find they were looking for a project in the same line of work as you. And then they go, hey,
Mm.
so, oh, I was going to give you another small anecdote.
Mhm.
No, but when I passed my metric, I was I got five distinctions, and I didn't have a bursary. I went to
Okay.
my school principal, and we were looking what can happen, etc. You know what he says? He says, "Why don't you just write to a number of companies in the chemical engineering field, etc." We wrote at the time. I faxed my results. I don't know if some of our listeners know what a fax machine
Facts.
is. But anyway, I just fax my results to one company and say, hey, here are my results. I'd like to do chemical engineering. Is that something that you can consider sponsoring? 2 days later, the phone rings, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Wow.
I was one fax away from all my tuition at UCT being paid, my residence being paid, and
Wow.
being paid. Imagine I did not, and I just thought, they're gonna ignore me, and
Mm.
say you are 1 centimeter away. Do you
Yeah. You
understand?
and if you don't take it's one lesson I really wanted to take home today. If you don't take that risk because you've overcalculated it, you might be shooting yourself in the foot.
Absolutely, you
You
are a
might be the
centimeter.
cause for your demise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dr. Manda, we are running out of time, but before I let you go, I think it's very important for Radio Pulpit family to take that test with me, actually. How do you
Yes.
reach out to you guys? How do you communicate? And I really feel, as you were talking initially at the start of the show, that their companies have got mission statements and their visions and everything, but they never really see them through. Not
Yeah.
because they intend not to,
Yeah.
life gets busy,
Yeah.
business gets booming, and you don't even think of those things.
Yeah.
And you don't realize the exponential growth that may come with fulfilling the initial mandate, actually. So you're
Absolutely.
just happy and you're satisfied with the growth you're seeing right now, but there could be so much more to it because you've got the blueprint and it's perfect, but you're
Yeah.
not carrying it out anymore. So how
Yeah.
do we communicate with you? How do we get assistance, in this regard? Fortunately, we are still within the first term. We're starting the year. It's
Yes.
an important. I feel any
Yeah.
company that prioritizes its workers and its leadership traits is
Yeah.
in for a win, actually.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, no, no. So you're spot on. And what we do a range of things. We do consulting, we do coaching, and we do a number of things. And what we see sometimes is, when we take these exco and these leaders away to kind of just reorient their strategies, realign, because it's very easy to drift away
Hmm.
from what's core. Usually, the metrics that they're driving on a quarter to quarter can be a culprit for this drifting. So it's important. Sometimes they can reach out to us on the same WhatsApp number for both sort of at an organizational level, at a team level. How do we make their team more strength based? How do we kind of unearth the values of their team? How do we make the whole organization purpose led? But at a personal level, we also do this strength finder, talent team finder assessments, and people can reach us on our WhatsApp number, which is 078 020 0051, 078 or they can email me directly at mandat@superlead.co.za. Manda has got two A's in
Yes,
between,
please.
MAANDAT, at superlead.co.za. And from there, we are here. Ours is to serve leaders, and
Yeah.
we'll be delighted to serve our radio pulpit listeners.
Come on. Thank you so much, Dr. Maanda. It's really been an insightful conversation, I must say. We'll do it again next week. Same time, same place. God bless and have a great afternoon. Please read those books, by the way.
Thank you so much. Have an awesome one.
Cool, cool.
This traffic update is brought to you by the Ear Institute, where excellent hearing begins. The Ear Institute guarantees your hearing will improve or your money back. This traffic update was sponsored by the Ear Institute, where excellent hearing begins. The Ear Institute guarantees your hearing will improve or your money back.
Are you struggling to hear in noise? We can help. At the Ear Institute, we guarantee your hearing will improve, or we will refund your money. We are situated throughout South Africa and Namibia, and our professional team will offer you the best advice. Visit earinstitute.co.za for your nearest branch. Call us today. Ear Institute, where excellent hearing begins. T's and C's apply.
Owing Sawyer has been involved in the food manufacturing